This is Jonathan Agger, Fifth Pro Boxing Fans, joined by journalist Dan Rafael over Zoom. Dan, a busy weekend of boxing. So much going on that you were reporting on your Substack, danrafael.substack.com. Yeah, yeah. How did you keep up with everything going on?
It wasn't that hard from the standpoint because at least the timing worked out for the most part. A lot of times when we have conflicts, you've got cards happening at the exact same time, at least in the terms of the major events on the weekend. They didn't conflict with each other, which was good. You had Fury on Friday, although that wasn't live because nobody showed it streaming. So, but within I don't know, probably like within an hour or so after that was over, it was very easy to find a full fight on YouTube. So I was able to watch that. Friday night, I tuned in and watched the return after about 2.5 years off to see Demetrius Andre, the former two-division world champion, make his return and score a very highlight reel-ish first-round knockout of his opponent. So that was on Friday. Saturday, of course, the big show in Saudi Arabia with Anthony Joshua Prenga. That lasted about 50 hours, it felt like. But I was mainly involved with the main card and watching not only Anthony Joshua's dramatic knockout victory, but also the two title fights on that undercard with Hamza Shiraz and Josh Kelly. And then it was after that was over, you had the card from Australia, where for me anyway, the only fight left on that show that had some allure was the main event because the other notable fights had been unfortunately canceled. Charlo didn't get the visa. Stephen Fulton came in 9.5 pounds overweight for his title eliminator with Liam Wilson. That got canceled. So I was able to keep up, but it was busy. It was busy.
Yeah.
And then, of course, on Sunday, you had the Zuffa card. So that was the next day. So there was a lot going on, like you said.
Well, like I said, 5 fight reports available and probably more on your Substack, danrafael.substack.com. So, yeah, advise people to check that out. Links will be in the description. Dan, I want to start with Anthony Joshua. He went down within 20 seconds. And were you thinking this Fury fight is doomed?
Absolutely. I thought, not just because he got knocked down, we've seen Anthony Joshua get knocked down and get up a number of occasions. The reason why I was thinking the fight's over was because, number one, it was not just a flash knockdown, it was like a legitimate knockdown, number one. And number two, he got hurt yet again in the follow-up. And number three, there was still so much time left in the round. You know what I mean? Like if he gets dropped and there's 15 or 20 seconds left, you can usually figure out a way to kind of bullshit your way through the rest of the round, grab and hold, and do the things you got to do to just hang in there. But with so much time left, and the fight had just started, he's already messed up. You're like, this is not going to end well. And then, of course, he got dropped a second time. It wasn't a hard knockdown, but he got so discombobulated that he had to touch his gloves down to the canvas, which counted for another knockdown. Before that, he had taken another monstrous shot on the ropes, the right hand, that he somehow managed to not go down from. So he was just getting absolutely hammered in that first round. And, we've seen Joshua has been knocked out in the past, but Kristian Prenga just had no idea how to finish. He was one punch away from ending that fight. As I thought to myself and put up on social media, he'll never have another restful night's sleep the rest of his life, knowing how close he was to getting that knockout. But he just didn't have he was not equipped with the skills to finish Joshua.
So, the second round, obviously, Joshua comes in there, finishes it off. There was suggestions by people online. Simon Jordan, who works for TalkSport, was saying that he felt as an element. He's alluding to potentially being fixed. I don't know if you saw that tweet, but that's kind of gone viral. But from what you're saying, he just wasn't good enough to finish Joshua, right?
I mean, no offense to my man Simon Jordan. We don't know what the fuck he's talking about. I mean, if it was fixed, which it wasn't, let's be clear, and that is a moronic comment. Do you think that they would fix it by having Anthony Joshua get dropped hard in the fight and get rattled again with another monstrous right hand, when all that does to some degree is devalue the Fury fight even more than it has been because it's taken so long to make? It is a preposterous suggestion. And frankly, Simon Jordan and anybody else that would suggest that that was a fixed fight should be absolutely ashamed of themselves and doesn't know what in the world they're looking at.
Fury did his job on Friday night. What did you make of his performance?
He lumbered through 7 rounds. He got in some rounds that he said he needed or wanted prior to fighting Joshua. It was highly uninspiring. It was a glorified sparring session. He got touched a couple of times with some decent shots, which he took fine. Mariusz Wach is like a walking cadaver. I mean, the guy is 46 years old. He's been knocked out a bunch of times. He's, at one time, you got to go back literally like about, I don't know, 12 or 13 years ago when he was undefeated and he fought for the title against Klitschko and lost every single round. He has never done anything beyond that. I mean, this was exactly what Fury wanted, I guess, to just go in there and move around for a few rounds. I'm still not entirely sure why the corner stopped the fight. It wasn't like Mariusz Wach was taking some kind of hellacious beating to stop on the stool. But Tyson Fury got in a few rounds and moves on. He didn't really distinguish himself in terms of shining, but he didn't have any problems. He won basically every single round. I mean, I didn't see the official scorecards. I'd be rather surprised if any judge gave Mariusz Wach any rounds in that fight. What I thought was so unusual, not only the whole setup of having it take place in Thailand, non-televised, which, as Fury said, they'll put some highlights or whatever parts of the fight on his Netflix reality show, that he wasn't even the main event of the card. I think he was the second fight into the ring. You figure you're having a superstar heavyweight former champion on your show, at the very least, he's going to headline the card. But no, they put him in number 2. And I guess the rest of the card was, a variety of like Thailand club fights, essentially.
Have you, is your opinion that, this Fury Joshua fight, not interested in, or is it better late than never?
Oh, I'm still interested in the fight. And I say that I was interested before what happened over the weekend. I'm still interested, even though neither one of them performed at a high level over the weekend. But I still want to see the fight. So it has to happen for history's sake, for the sake of the British boxing history, for the heavyweight division history. And it's about time. It is happening too late. I get it. Both fighters showed, in my mind, that they are at the end of their careers. This is not like the start of a rivalry where they're going to do 2 and 3 fights. This is the end, essentially. Both guys are, I'm not sure how many more times they'll fight or be involved in meaningful fights, but this is certainly, I have to think this is the last of the big mega fights for these guys. It's not even the kind of fight where whoever wins, you're going to say, if it's Fury or it's Anthony Joshua, like, that guy should get the next title shot. Do you know what I mean? Because there's other guys that are kind of in line and who are fighting at a higher level or are more active and that sort of stuff these days. But look, we still want to see the fight. Let's just get to the fucking finish line and get this on. You know what I mean? And, now I guess the next battle is going to be where it's going to take place as they continue to try to hash that out, because the notion they would try to do this fight in the United States of America is just preposterous to me.
Well, you did tell me, and I think you were one of the first to really report it, at least publicly, that the reason why they're looking at the States is because of Netflix, and they're having their say in the time zone and things like that. Have you heard any update on where this fight is going to be?
No, they're still going through that process. I mean, Netflix as the main funder of the event certainly has their say so on where it takes place. I mean, they're the ones spending, crazy amounts of money to ensure that the fight takes place. Nothing has changed in the respect in terms of where it takes place, just from the mere fact that if you listen to anybody involved, certainly Eddie Hearn has been outspoken about this. This is not the first time he said it. I've heard this from multiple people through the last, few weeks about this, that the Joshua contract specifies that this event must take place in the UK. For obvious reasons. It's a UK fight. I mean, people in Britain care about it. In the United States, nobody cares about this fight. Most of the people, though, probably, if it does in fact take place in the United States, I would dare say that the majority of the folks that buy tickets and show up for the fight will be those who decide to travel from the UK to come and attend the fight, wherever, whether it's in Las Vegas or Madison Square Garden. Here, it's just another event that doesn't mean anything to our sporting public. It means a lot maybe to the hardcore boxing fans, but there's unfortunately not that many of us left these days. In the United Kingdom, it sells 100,000 tickets at Wembley Stadium, or sells out in Cardiff if they can put it there for, 85,000 people or what have you. And in the United States, it just does not have that kind of meaning. But for whatever reason, Netflix feels like their viewership will be enhanced by having it in the American time zone. I'm kind of embarrassed that they would want to bring it here, because we don't deserve it. It's not our fight. We don't really want it, but that seems what they want to do. But again, what Eddie Hearn said, and he's right about this, if their contract indeed is what he says, that nobody disputes, that they say there's a clause that says it must take place in the United Kingdom, they cannot unilaterally decide it's going to take place anywhere else. So even if they want to move the fight, and Eddie said this, and I agree with him, and I don't agree with Eddie on everything, well, they got to come and at least have a conversation with us. You can't just move it. You got to come and sit down with us and say, okay, here's what we'd like to do. A, why are you doing this? It's a fight that we need here in our country. And B, even if we were to agree, what are the new terms? We have to be compensated to make that move. Do you think that Eddie Hearn or Anthony Joshua or Tyson Fury, anybody associated with that fight like that, wants to spend the rest of their life walking down the street and having people pissed off at them because they took their big mega fight and brought it to the United States of America? I mean, I wouldn't. Eddie Hearn will never hear the end of it. He knows it.
Moving on down to Tim Tszyu and Errol Spence. We saw the end of a great career. Errol Spence retiring right after the fight. You've covered his whole career. Just sum up, how you found covering his career and how you remember him. And is he a Hall of Famer as well?
Well, I always have gotten on great with Errol Spence. Like you said, I have covered his entire career. I actually was looking at his lineup of fights. I think I was ringside for about a dozen of his fights through his career and wrote about, even the ones I wasn't at, wrote about them. Certainly at the big ones. I've always had a good relation with Errol. He's always treated me with class and respect. I've never had a problem. He's been a tremendous fighter. If you take a look at his resume, fight in and fight out, especially when he became a champion, he was fighting all the top guys. He went through a litany of top quality opponents and beat them. He won his title on the road in England against Kell Brook and pretty much kept fighting all the top guys. I mean, unified the titles twice, with the victories against, quality guys like Ugas and Sean Porter. Had, just a bunch of, fought Danny Garcia. Finally, obviously fought Terrence Crawford. He didn't go his way, of course. Beat, a very underrated win, like against Lamont Peterson, who was a top contender. My point is, Errol fought a lot of quality guys at a time when a lot of guys were looking to not fight the top guys. Not to mention he was the United States Olympian, made it to the quarterfinals in his year. Tremendous fighter. Obviously, you wonder sometimes what if he hadn't been involved in the car accident. That definitely, I think hampered his the latter stages of his career after he fought the great victory against Sean Porter. It was just a few weeks later he was involved in that terrible accident. He was out of the ring for over a year, but when he came back and he looked fine when he fought Danny Garcia, but he just sort of got the feeling that he wasn't quite the same. I didn't think he looked bad against Tim Tszyu. I thought it was a much closer fight, frankly, than what the scorecards read. I mean, one scorecard was 10 rounds to 2, the other two were 9 rounds to 3 on 2 of those cards. I thought, even if you think Tim Tszyu won, I've got no problem with that, but I thought it was definitely a much closer fight. 7-5, maybe 8-4. I think you can find a way to even get a draw because Errol, I thought, did a great job in the early part of the fight where he was much more active. I just think those 36-year-old legs, did not hold up, and Tszyu was still, had good energy in the latter stages of the fight. But he had a really good career. But I am glad that he came back after the Crawford fight. My perspective on that, Jonathan, was this: that when you take the beating the way he did against Terrence Crawford, especially as an undefeated champion, and you're a very proud guy, that's a hard one to go out on. So I think he wanted to make the comeback. Just forget about what I think, what you think, what the fans think, what anybody thinks. He wanted to come back just to show that he could do it again. And to take some, even if he didn't win the fight, that he could take some satisfaction that, I trained as best as I could. I got down there to the fight. I took on a dangerous opponent. I fought him in his home country. I had no problem traveling, thousands of miles to Australia to be the bad guy in front of his crowd. And I'm proud of myself because even though I didn't win, I gave it my best. And it didn't go my way, but I can much more walk away from boxing on my terms of losing the way I did against Tim Tszyu than by taking a fucking shellacking against Terrence Crawford. So I feel like there'll be some peace in him having walked away off of that loss rather than he had never come back after the Terrence Crawford loss.
Absolutely. Dan,
and by the way, as far as the Hall of Fame goes,
yeah,
I have been a voter in the Hall of Fame for more than 2 decades. When he gets on the ballot, I believe he has an outstanding chance. And my cursory look at his record, I'll look a little closer when it comes time to actually make the vote. And also, you got to see who else is on the ballot in the year you're voting. But I would be inclined to vote for him to be in the Hall of Fame.
Just lastly, Dan, we saw Josh Kelly retain his IBF super welterweight title against Kevin Ajako. We did think that we'd get maybe a unification with Boots Ennis, perhaps November, December time. With that cut that he suffered, do you think that's off the table, at least for this year?
Well, I don't know the answer to that, only because it depends on what his doctor has to say. It certainly looked like a bad cut. Eddie Hearn was making some comments in the ring afterwards that it could be the type of thing that does not allow it to happen at the end of the year because Boots is planning to come back and have his next fight sometime in that time frame. And if Josh Kelly is available, that's probably a fight that they can make probably rather easily, given that they're both with Matchroom. And it would be, a pretty big fight. Josh would most likely be coming here to fight in the United States to do that fight. But if he's physically unable to do so because of the nose, they'll have to come up with a different plan for Boots Ennis. And of course, the same with Josh Kelly, who would probably sit out the rest of the year and, for his sake, hopefully be back in the earlier part of next year. Unless, and I don't know if he'll do this, but unless Ennis says it's important for him to unify, so I'm willing to wait till January or February for the next fight. I don't know the answer to that, but I think that if he is physically able and cleared medically to fight in that time frame, that they'll make every effort to make it happen. And if they can't, then Boots will fight somebody else. But I know that he'd like to unify the titles, and I'm sure if you ask Josh Kelly, he would like to unify the titles. He said so after the fight that that's the fight he wanted. Not a lot of guys calling out Boots Ennis, and hopefully the nose is okay and they can make the match.
Absolutely. Actually, just finally, Dan, let me ask you about Conor Benn and Ryan Garcia, September 12th. How, because I was in a press conference with Dana White maybe 6-8 weeks ago, and he said, it was close to being announced. It took ages for a fight announcement to take place. What was the stumbling block, and how difficult, from your understanding, was it for the fight to get over the line?
Well, I think on the Conor Benn side of things, there was no issues. It was a matter of everybody aligning with how Golden Boy was going to be involved and what money they were going to get and what compensation in terms of future fights DAZN would get with Ryan and Golden Boy, because it has been, I don't know if it's like 100% that it's been out there to everybody, but within the business, I guess, people understood that this was sort of the end of the line for Ryan's association with Golden Boy and DAZN. Now, Turki Al-Sheikh, he did a deal with Golden Boy and Ryan where he bought the rights to do the Barrios fight for Ryan Garcia that took place earlier in the year. But he had a second fight on that, and I think with Ryan himself had an option for another fight. So this is the second fight of that group, because Turki, of course, is the one that's running the show with Zuffa on this particular fight. But Golden Boy was like, we have a contract with Ryan and our contract with DAZN that he has to be on DAZN. So to go on Paramount Plus, at least here in the United States, is where the fight will be broadcast. We got to get something worked out, and it took time. These are people who don't like each other particularly, so it makes it more complicated to do business. And then there's a strong will on both sides to get the way that they want. Now, any good negotiation, most times anyway, both parties should walk away not entirely satisfied. I am sure that is what happened. But at the end of the day, Golden Boy will have the services of Garcia beyond this fight, and DAZN will have his services beyond this fight, and they'll all both get paid good amount of money to allow this fight to take place on Paramount Plus. So you say, well, what took so long? That's what took so long, because that ain't easy to do. Especially when you're dealing with people with strong wills like TV executives and Dana White and Oscar De La Hoya, who have no love between them whatsoever. So it got done, though. I maintain I'll die on this hill, Jonathan, because I covered every single nook and cranny of it. If they could make Lennox Lewis against Mike Tyson, and then fast forward however many years later, and they could finally make, even though it took forever, Manny Pacquiao against Floyd Mayweather, there is not a fight that you could contemplate in the history of the world that can't be made.
Interesting. Yeah. Dan, always a great insight from yourself. Appreciate your time, and a lot of boxing coming up. So, good summer ahead, I guess.
Yes, sir. Good to talk to you as always.